I mean, I kind of feel like this video is probably a waste of time for this audience because, well, you actually look at the evidence, you have a brain, and you have the ability to use your common sense to come to these conclusions. But having said that, we've got to talk about the ever worsening Biden document scandal that just continues on. And I don't like to pat myself on the back, but I told you right here, and I told you on Live from Studio 6B, that we probably, quote, weren't done finding documents, finding locations, and well, what do you know? Now, let me remind you of someone who did tell you that this was done.
After the search concluded last night, we released a statement disclosing the facts from that search, as you all know, this morning. This is all part of the Justice Department process. I don't have anything more to say, but that search was completed last night, and now this is in the hands of the Justice Department. So look, I want to be very prudent here, as I said yesterday, as you all have reported over and over again. About any questions about this, any specifics, there's a review going on, and I would refer to Department of Justice or my colleagues in the counsel's office. You should assume that it's been completed, yes. Okay. Well, as I just said, as you saw in our statement, the documents that were found last night, right? They completed the search with documents being found last night. And then this morning, we put out, you heard from the White House counsel, we put out the information on specifically what was found.
But just one document was found last night.
The search was continuing. It was ongoing. The process, as I've been saying, was ongoing, and the search is clearly complete, and therefore we shared the information with all of you. I can just refer you to what his team said. The search is complete. He is confident in this process, and I will leave it there.
And that, of course, was the White House. Oh, yes, they told you, the American people, that the search for mishandled documents was completed. That was one of the only things they have told you. They've told you nothing else. They've answered no questions. They haven't talked about this. They've referred you to every department and every other person in the world. They've taken no questions. They've answered no questions. But they did do one thing, and that was to tell you that this was done. The search was done. The search for mishandled documents was completed. Meanwhile, I told you we probably, quote, weren't done yet. And well, here we are. More classified documents have now turned up at Biden's home. The Justice Department found 6 items, quote unquote, and remember that word because that's going to be important later, containing classified information during a Friday search of President Joe Biden's home in Wilmington, Delaware, his personal lawyers said yesterday. The search, lasting more than 12 hours, also turned up classified notes from Biden's time in the Senate and his vice presidency. The search was conducted by FBI agents. According to people familiar with the matter, the agency's involvement was not disclosed by the White House or by Biden's personal legal team in their statements. Whoa, what a surprise there. The Justice Department also confirmed the search. A Justice Department spokesperson said, quote, the FBI executed a planned consensual search of the president's residence in Wilmington, Delaware, but declined to comment any further. And let me go right to what Andy McCarthy points out on Twitter, because this is important. He says Biden didn't consent to the FBI search because he's Mr. Cooperation or this White House's transparency, like they keep telling us. He consented because there was probable cause of crimes. If he didn't agree, the next step would have been special counsel getting a search warrant, i.e. judicial finding of probable cause, and clearly Biden and the White House wanted to avoid that. So keep that in mind when you hear on all these Sunday shows this morning. I saw little Dick Durbin out there. I see everybody out there. Oh, it's such a difference still, the way they're handling this. Like there's this padding built into the law that none of us can find. They're cooperating. They're transparent, as it gets worse and worse and worse day by day, week by week. Now, back to what I said before, just as a side note here, the way that this was worded, and I've actually seen it reported where they took the word items and actually changed it to docs. It doesn't say 6 documents. It says 6 items. Now, what are the items? If the items are, let's say, boxes or filing cabinets, then there could be hundreds of documents within those 6 items. So let's be clear about the language here. Just like when it comes to who visited the president's house, oh, we don't have any visitor records. Oh, well, do you call them something other than visitor records? Do you have any of those? Oh, well, maybe, but you better be specific about your language. Now, Thomas Lifson over at the American Thinker also points this out. He says 6 items consisting of documents with classification markings is deceptively vague, and I would argue misleading language. What exactly are the items? Are they banker boxes full of hundreds of documents? They could be. We don't know. And so far, the DOJ has said nothing to the public to enlighten us. This is the opposite of transparency, folks, upon which the kid glove treatment so far is being afforded to Biden, compared to the Dawn FBI raid imposed upon Trump, with his attorneys basically saying, hey, you guys just wait out at the pool while we do a search through the whole house and tear the place apart. I get it that lawyers are tasked with minimizing the damage to their clients, and Bob Bauer's statement is consistent with his responsibility to his client, Joe Biden, and his statement no doubt is strictly speaking truthful, but it is also misleading, as the initial public reaction, even from the opponents of Biden, indicates we are being played. The only question, and it is barely a question at this point, is whether the DOJ is also being played. The fact that it has not clarified the misleading items language suggests that it is a willing participant in the political effort to minimize damage to Biden. That's right, 6 items. What are those items? If we don't know what the items are, it's not 6 documents. And I've seen a lot of reporting on this morning, even from people who I think would have done better. 6 documents, they say. No, 6 items as far as I can tell so far. If those items are, let's say, filing cabinets, how many documents are in the filing cabinets? That should be clarified for us so that we know what we're talking about here. George Washington University Law School professor Jonathan Turley on Twitter said the latest discovery undercuts Biden's defense of an inadvertent mishandling of documents and required more than his stated lack of remorse. He said, quote, it becomes increasingly implausible that dozens of documents were distributed to at least 4 different locations by pure inadvertence, Turley tweeted on Sunday morning. At what point do the mounting stacks of classified documents produce a modicum of regret? Well, the president says he has no regrets. And all of his handlers say there's no there, including all of the pom-pom shaking Democrat operatives going on all these Sunday morning shows. Now, folks, really the reasonable question at this point would be not where they have found them. Is there anywhere that they haven't found them? Where have they not found classified documents? That's actually a shorter list than where they have. The excuses about documents being accidentally put here or accidentally swept up while we were cleaning out this or cleaning out that, or, oh, we just happened to stance across them while we were at his old office. None of that washes anymore. The existence of these documents everywhere, now including his Senate days, means he knowingly took them, transported them multiple times. And let's not forget, Joe Biden, as miraculous as this is, found his way to be the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee while he was in the Senate, which shapes U.S. foreign policy. And there's a lot of questions about Joe Biden's foreign policy, his son, Ukraine, and now we have boxes turning up that are labeled important. Now we know it's time from him in the Senate. Was Joe Biden illegally taking these documents to cover up what he was doing overseas? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And this brings us back, by the way, to the curious actions and laser focus, especially when it came to President Trump, of the National Archives. Time in the Senate some of these documents are from. The fact that nobody in the National Archives noticed missing documents for 14 years. 2009, Joe Biden left the Senate. 14 years. If that doesn't prove that the agency's attitude toward classified documents is somewhat lacking, but it wasn't when it came to Trump, was it? But it seemingly is everywhere else. I don't know. Seems like the National Archives has some explaining to do. Over the course of his decades in government, how many classified documents did Joe Biden steal exactly? And how many ended up in the hands of third parties or foreign powers or had to do with his son? or had to do with other governments or agencies doing business with the Biden crime family? Biden's tenure as senator ended in 2009, which means the classified documents were with him at unauthorized locations for at least 14 years. Folks, the flagrant double standard here is just amazing, exactly as it was with Hillary. No reasonable prosecutor. You remember that? By the way, I hear Ron Klain is now on his way out of the White House all of a sudden. And have you noticed how quiet Obama, Rice, Jared, Holder are these days? I don't know. You'll have to make your own determinations. Well, that's your update, folks. We will continue, and I'll say it again. I don't think we're done. I don't think we're done. I need clarification on this items. 6 items. Well, what are those items? If it's 6 filing cabinets or 6 banker boxes, as the gentleman from American Thinker pointed out, we would want to know what's in the items. How many documents are we talking about here? I don't think we're done. I've continued to say that. We may be done in finding locations, maybe not, but I don't know that we're done with the number of documents that this whole thing entails. So we will continue to follow it. That's your update for Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow in another video.